Hello and welcome to Stephen University. This week we are discussing Full Disclosure. First thing I want to point out, love that title card. All the debris everywhere.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's really cool. I just like that. That's a nice little touch. They're good at doing that, aren't they? Changing the title card when it's necessary.
And it let me know originally, like right away, because at the end of last week's episode, you were like, So you think it's going to just start completely fresh, yeah? Going to start completely fresh. And in the back of my mind, I was thinking, I bet it doesn't, and Dan's trying to make me look like a dick.
No, that's not how I phrased it at all. What I said was, there are two ways this can go. You were like,
you bet your future children it will start afresh, yeah?
You had suggested that, and I said, so which way do you think it'll go? Will it because you talked about both possibilities, either handling it or not handling it, and I said, I laid it out and said, which one do you think they'll do? You dug that hole for yourself, mate. No, it's very much dealing with the aftermath.
I mean, it picks up right where they left off.
Literally, 100%. And it's. I think. I mean, a pretty damn good episode on the whole. But go on, Chris. What's it about?
I thought it was great. It is about literally the moment after it happens. There's debris everywhere. They're like, oh shit. And then Stephen's dad appears and is like freaked out by it and playing music in his van. And Stephen keeps getting calls from Connie, who's naturally worried given the voicemail. So to the point where you're almost like, they must have, it feels like they planned this when they were planning the end of the last series for him to even leave the voicemail and stuff. Because you are almost like, how come Connie's not there? But this plays into it so nicely. And then Stephen gets worried and he sings a song. He has a bollocks scene with Ronaldo, which is only the only weak part of the episode, because you're loving it. You're loving it so much, and then Ronaldo appears and you're like, oh, fuck, you know. And then luckily Ronaldo buggers off. And maybe that scene's there just to then show the day. Maybe he picks up some gem equipment, and maybe that's why that scene's there, and they do something with it later. That would be my guess, because otherwise it does really feel pointless. Eventually, Connie goes to see him, and you think Stephen's about to say, I don't want to be friends anymore. He texts that to her. He can't bring himself to do that in person, breaks down, tells her everything. She's cool with it. His dad's back. He's cool with it. The town is cracking on with things. And there we go. Right off the bat, I love that they have been so adult with their storytelling that you really think it's going to a place where he's going to tell them they can't be friends anymore. I genuinely believed that was going to happen, and it was breaking my heart. And I was like, oh no, because you get it, you understand it, and it's a plot that's been done a million times before, but you really are like, oh God, no, please don't do that. But they love each other, and you kind of want Garnet to be like, no, you fused, tell her, da-da-da-da-da. And I genuinely think they really convince you. And then the almost relief when he's all fucked up and he's like, I want to be friends, is like, you know, you really feel that. And then you really feel that happy ending. That I think you genuinely worry they're gonna stick to it. And I'm glad they didn't.
Because there's so many ways that could play out as a rule. Like, because you're right. It's a show that's demonstrated its ability to just not avoid like taking the approach that's more adult, the approach that's a bit more serious, and while throwing in those jokes. So you could totally see a version of this where they do a small, at the very least, a small arc where he tries to shut out the rest of the the world and build a fence and all that, and because it ends up being an analogy for not just the Connie situation, but how they react with the other people from the town, and how whether he includes them or not, because it becomes a thing about will they build a fence again, which is a great reference, by the way, to, I don't know if you remember from Story for Stephen, Greg has to climb a fence to get to where the gems are.
Yeah, he climbs a barbed wire fence, and I did get that.
And so, like, for them to for them to have created a show that you totally buy that it could go that way, and it is heartbreaking because it just you totally you understand and believe Steven's reasoning to the point where you almost agree with him, but it still breaks your heart to think about it. And then the way they end it, just genius. I think it's to have him stand on that sort of that piece of debris in shadow, looking sad, and then have him sort of look up and you see the tears. It's very well, it's beautifully animated actually at that point as well. And you realize, I mean, again, it's that moment again that you're reminded how much of a kid he is. You forget, and then you remember, and then you forget again because he's so mature. And it's also that stuff as well when it's like when the song, obviously, which we haven't even touched upon the song yet. Him. Talking about, everybody always told me that gem stuff's dangerous. I guess I didn't believe them. That's like the first line of that song.
It's like...
Go on.
No, go on.
No,
I never thought... but this comparison, the fact that I'm making this comparison is going to get you excited, so I'm going to make it. It's Harry Potter. It's yes. When, Harry realises the dangers he's in, and
yes.
Harry has to deal with it as a kid. It inspires exactly the same emotions that does, and those books do. Yeah,
because it's you because you always sort of go like, well, he must know it's dangerous, but then you sort of forget that no, because he's a child, he doesn't see the dangers the way that grown-ups do. That's how kids are. Like, when they're climbing on something and you're like, get down, if you fall from there, you're toast. And the kid just doesn't see that danger. That's actually surprisingly accurate, isn't it? Children don't perceive danger the way that older people do because, they're having been around for longer. They see more possibilities, I suppose, in terms of ways to get hurt and things. Kids are weirdly fearless. And it's like, as Stephen gets older, he's starting to see that there's a very legitimate danger to what he's doing. And doing an episode where he has to literally, the whole episode is dedicated to him just having to deal with that. That is remarkable for kids' television. It's remarkable on a storytelling perspective. And I've said this before, there are full drama shows that would kill to have storytelling this good. 45-minute episode dramas that don't have storytelling as intricate and clever as this.
And this is perhaps a wider question, but you can only plan so far, and you can only be so intricate. Yeah, I can't say that word. Interconnected so far. So either the show's got to end, or you have to introduce a shitload of new mysteries, which might contradict the old mysteries. So, is it Harry Potter or is it Doctor Who? What are you able to say where you think the show is at this point in terms of actual airing? Because we're on season 5?
Yes, yeah, about 130, 40 episodes in, and this is obviously only episode, where are we, 53? There's this, plus then some.
So is the show still Harry Potter or is it Doctor Who?
For me, it's still Harry Potter.
Wow.
I legitimately, every time I think we know where we're at now, we know where the show is going, or a lot of this stuff has unraveled. There's more to it that we still don't know, and you don't realize you wanted to know, and then they hint at it, and you go, "Oh my god, I need to know what's happening there."
And more to it that it still feels nothing contradicts each other.
Not yet. Nothing. I haven't found any major plot holes in the backstory, but I suppose those may only become evident if they're there, depending on how it all loops around at the very end. Because if you don't have all the information, plot holes aren't as obvious, are they? If we get when we get the full scale of it and see the whole picture, it'll be a lot easier to start pointing out them. But as far as I'm aware at this point, there's nothing that's happened that's made me go. The closest thing to that, and it's actually something we can talk a little bit about now. We haven't talked about this so far, but
just to make a catty comment on that last thing, like how the creators of Lost had you convinced that they would produce some answers in Series 6 that would make the whole thing make sense and not be contradictory bollocks.
Mm-hmm.
Carry on.
Yeah, so it could be that. Thus far, though, Nothing, no major
no,
contradictions that I'm aware of.
I don't think it will be. Not to that scale.
Not to that scale. And even if it, and at this point, I think the writers have very much proved that they're capable of doing. They're better than that. So yeah, I really like this episode. But what I was going to say is, Stephen and the Stevens, the episode with the time travel multiple Stevens. That's been a bit of an episode that's turned out to be a little bit controversial, and the reason that is because people do not like the idea that the time travel technology kind of exists in the world of the gems, because it's sort of how does a gem war break out, and how does if they've got the ability to literally time travel?
Oh yeah.
Does that not cause some trouble in terms of the wider continuity? That's the closest thing anyone's found to a sort of continuity issue, which is if gems have time travel technology, the gem war surely played out quite differently. But to be honest with you, that doesn't bother me so much. You could look at it a little bit like the time turners in Harry Potter and say there's just the one that works, and it's a very dangerous and powerful device, and it only works under certain circumstances. And
assuming you're ignoring Cursed Child.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did a podcast on that. If anyone wants to listen to it, it's an episode of Nothing But Static about that.
Yeah, Cursed Child on the whole, a very good play, but we don't like the time travel element. It doesn't work. It's broken. It doesn't.
As a concept,
it doesn't match the previously established time travel rules in the Harry Potter universe.
Well, not only that, but for exactly the same reasons as you've just described. It shouldn't have a get out of time travel. Admittedly, as you said, they don't use that get out, so it's fine. And then in The Cursed Child, it gets used. I've not seen the play. I've only read the book, and as such, fall into the angry camp. But I appreciate if you see the film and see the play. It's magical and wonderful, and that probably makes you forgive it.
Definitely,
I won't. But obviously the time travel isn't so much an element on this episode, and I think that as long as they only do it that it's a whimsical, you can occasionally go back thing, as long as it's never a Des Ex Machina, and I never say that right, apologies for my pronunciation, then I think it's fine. Yeah,
I mean, that's one example I can think of a thing that continuity-wise seems a little out of place, but otherwise, so far, everything really sort of is fitting in very nicely. And sometimes, and I'm going to say this in a way that hopefully will lead the people who are up to date knowing what I'm referring to. Sometimes, as in the recent Wanted special, they'll drop a piece of information you didn't know you wanted, but it fills in a gap in the puzzle that you needed, and you didn't know you needed it. But as soon as you found the piece, you went, "Oh, that makes so much more sense."
As someone who, because obviously I can't comment on that,
no.
As someone who I know dislikes Ronaldo, did you think the Ronaldo scene was equally bollocks?
Wasn't great.
Why is it Ronaldo, man? Could have been Sadie, could have been...
No, because it needed to... No, it had to be Ronaldo, annoyingly, because what he had to basically... The message he had to give is a message only really Ronaldo would understand. He feels in the loop, regardless of whether he is or isn't. And he was talking about shouldering that burden and the normies not knowing what's going on. There's no way Sadie or Lars can have that conversation with Steven.
That's fair.
It's annoying, and I don't like it any more than you do, Chris, because he's a really...
To make it really justified, though, I hope he fucks with some gem technology and that causes an episode. I would love that, because then that kind of justifies it more.
Yeah, that would be fair. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's like you've got a town covered in debris now, or at least part of it, the beach mostly. Is that something they're going to get to immediately deal with? You can see now, by the way, why I'm sure was not a fan of them inserting episodes early season 2.
Yeah. To suddenly go from this to like story for Steven would be a bit like, huh?
Yeah, or shirt club.
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah.
I think Connie's father is going to find gem technology, and he's going to get the contract to clear it up, and then they're going to be like, no, we're going to clear it up, and he's going to get angry with the gems and produce a villain as a result of it.
Sounds a lot like a
recent... It's a little deep cut reference. Well, don't say, because it's a spoiler, but for those that will get that, you'll get the shitty joke I'm making. But he's
referencing a film that came out recently.
Yeah.
Recently for us, maybe not for you. This isn't probably going out till October or something.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Catch it on DVD.
Yeah, it's probably on DVD by now.
Your first time watching it, how strongly did you think, oh, they're going to go that route, or did you kind of think they would not do that to Stephen and Connie?
This is the problem. I felt strongly both ways because I was like, no, you absolutely can't have him do that because, like, I was in denial. No, he can't, like, sort of break off his friendship with Connie. I can't have that. I can't deal with that. That's too much. That's going to tear me apart. And then, like, you know, then there's the part of me going, maybe they'll do it, but they'll just do it for a couple episodes and he'll realize he needs her. And then there's the, you know, like, and I was going through all the different states, and I was going, no, they'll never do that. No, it's too much. It's too much. He'll come round. He'll come round this week. Like, so yeah, I went through all the different stages, but all possibilities were open. That there was nothing I doubted this show was. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was convinced this show was capable of doing any and all of those things.
What about the use of we don't want to be friends anymore? Is that them being cute kids and not realizing it's a more romantic thing? Is that they're a friendship, not a romantic thing? Do we see, Dan, 5 series in, have you seen Stephen and Connie kiss?
I'm saying nothing.
Well, obviously you're not going to answer that, but were you questioning that, or is that something you don't question?
No,
if
because
you watch it the way you watched it?
I think they've pretty much made it clear that at this point, as romantic as the relationship gets, they still don't see it that way yet. They've not labelled. They're too young to have even realised themselves.
The Ron and Hermione. Like, I don't mean to keep comparing, but
a little bit though. I mean, not completely inaccurate. Yeah, I think a little bit. Like they don't see it for what it is. Maybe at this stage. And I'm with you. And when I was at this point, I was with you in that sense. Do you know what I mean? I was very much of the opinion
it's a romantic
relationship, going to be a thing, just playing out in a very slow, subtle way because they're so young, they don't really see it for what it is, which is a romantic relationship, and that'll shift, because the relationships evolve on the show all the time. So it's all going to have to shift at some point. But when I watched this episode, it didn't bother me that they specifically said don't want to be friends anymore, because I was, regardless of my opinions of whether they were romantic or not, I understood that they don't see it that way yet, whether it is or isn't.
What about Greg's response then? Because he knows how dangerous it is. Surely, I keep getting confused about like what Greg knows and doesn't know, and how, because the interesting thing about Greg is it's perfectly conceivable that Rose sat him down and went, this is the situation. And it's also perfectly conceivable that she hid him from everything. So you don't quite know what Greg knows. Like last week in the car when he's like, I mean, it was thousands of years ago. I wasn't there. You're like, you're saying that in a way that makes it sound like you were. And then this week where he's like, oh, the gem stuff is dangerous. And you're like, does he know it was dangerous? Doesn't he? Like...
Yeah, they've dealt with it before. It's interesting because I think they really need to make it a full episode plot at this point, because it's been hinted at a few times. Like in Ocean Gem, Mirror Gem, when he's with them at the where the water tower is, and they're fighting the water versions of themselves, and he goes, "Are your missions always this dangerous?" Because I get the impression he just thought they went off and recovered gem artifacts and
yeah.
I don't think he quite understood, and even then it didn't quite land. I think this is the. I think the events of Jailbreak are like a big point. I think they're like think that's the moment he maybe went, oh no, this is really dangerous. But then again, they undercut it right at the end with him being like, no, I'm your cool dad again, and then they drive off.
Yeah, I'm your cool dad.
I didn't know how I felt about that. Liked the continuity of the fact his van was still missing a door though from the previous week.
Yeah, that was good. I liked his whole. I like the fact that he came back as well.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. A
A
little bit behind Stephen, because obviously Stephen travelled by Magic Lion, so it took him a little while.
Yeah, well, they also explained it in that he came back because he saw the hand crashing and stuff like that. I think they say.
Yeah. Took him a little while, but yeah. So I think that's really. Really well done.
Good episode.
What did you think then? We haven't really we brushed over the context of it and the meaning of it, but what did you think to the song?
Oh, I love the song. Yeah, I thought it was good. I thought it was catchy. I don't think it was as good. I've watched it very close in context to Garnet's song from last week, so
Stronger Than
it
You.
obviously wasn't as good as that, but it's one of Stephen's more emotional songs.
Yeah.
And not, I would argue, one of the catchiest. I couldn't hum it to you now.
Really? Oh man, that phone ringtone is just in my head forever.
Maybe that element of it.
Yeah, and what's really cool, and I noticed this on the rewatch, when his phone rings in Jailbreak, it is that ring.
Oh, yeah.
Nice bit of continuity.
Yeah,
Because Connie rings him at the end of Jailbreak, obviously. It's like the last joke is that he answers the phone and Connie's like, Steve, what the hell happened? And he's like,
That must... The way they blend so seamlessly into each other must have been planned, surely.
It's hard to say, but you'd feel confident that they knew that they were gonna do it that way, and obviously in the end, obviously they aired together pretty much within a day of each other.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
But they were produced as part of separate seasons, by the look of it. So it's also really hard to gauge. The problem with this show is sometimes it's really hard to gauge the intention because Cartoon Network shuffled the plans around very frequently on them in terms of airing. So it's really hard to say. For sure what their intention was originally, because their intention and then what they were able to do, I mean, they may not have intended this episode to air so close to Jailbreak. They may have intended it to air the day after from the beginning. It's hard to say. Really hard to say.
Yeah. There you go. Cool. Great episode.
Yeah. What did you? Oh, one last thing I want to talk about very quickly is how did you like Pearl fobbing off Connie? Did you like Pearl being like, don't really understand your human emotions. Bye.
That was funny. I enjoyed more Amethyst turning into a crocodile and being like, I can be the crocodile, and then being like, you never commit to the crocodile.
Yeah. You know what I was about to say? Being the crocodile bit's kind of like a little bit of a chuckle, but it's when Pearl's like, no, you'll never commit. Like, you don't have the patience to be the crocodile. You always want to be the crocodile.
On the door closing, more so than Pearl, I enjoyed Garnet just raising a hand. Bye! Like, just one hand, just like waving. And then when she dragged Pearl away, I half expected them... Like, I don't know why when you've got the blinds there, they didn't have them peeking through the blinds. But anyway.
Yeah, I really thought that when Pearl shut the door, she would then close the blinds on the door. So she just disappeared behind them.
Yeah, something like it seemed you could get a visual gag somewhere with the blinds, either them peeking through or, like you say, them. I think them being closed actually is probably a funnier gag. Yeah, it seems a shame not to do them.
Obviously, they kept Stephen's wound in his eye because it was so directly after, I guess. It'd be hard to then get rid of that.
Well, I think that's also so that, and I'm beginning to think maybe the wound is even only there to enhance Greg and Connie's reactions, respectively.
Yeah, I think that's fair because I think you're right. I think that they both noticed that first. So I think that is important. How did you feel about them flashing back to an episode we literally just saw during the song? Because I think, I don't remember 100%, but I remember reading some people being like, is that necessary? I think it really gives the song impact, personally, to show when he's talking about all the trouble he's in and you're seeing these shots of all the dangerous shit they just did. For me, it really drove it home, but some people found that a bit redundant, I guess, is the word.
I think it gives it impact, and I think somewhere DVD sales... pausing and taking a break before you start the next set of streams. There will be someone somewhere that has a slight gap between series 1 and 2. So I think it adds to the song, but also it's fully justified because it's the first episode of a new series.
Yeah, I'd say that's fair. I would say that's totally fair.
And
cool.
And I like more and more reminders, and I love that at the end Connie was like, so Laphis is just under the sea. Like the more we remember that, the more I feel it's going to get addressed, which is exciting.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to tell you what they do with it, but if this show has done anything so far, it's shown a propensity not to forget about stuff.
No. But you could have it. You could have it. You could conceivably have it sat there till the season 2 finale. Like
you could absolutely. Yeah. They could leave it there for ages. But equally, though, there have been times when we've said that, or you've said that about things, and then the very next episode, the thing that you thought wasn't going to come back for ages comes back straight away, and you're just like, oh,
yeah,
great.
yeah. It's hard to predict.
So that's what I love about this show is its unpredictability. yeah, you're right. They could absolutely save Malachite, which is the fusion of Lapis and Jasper, returning in any form until the very end of the current season. Or they could do it next week, and neither would surprise you.
I wouldn't like to predict which way that would go.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I love about this show is like there's just no way of knowing where it's going to go. So that's really good. So excellent. So we saying that's everything for this week then?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So we'll see you, I guess, Friday as we discuss the next episode. So I've been Dan Doolan.
I've been Chris Billingham.
And we'll speak to you next time as we discuss Joyride.